What is happening? So as Alan mentioned tonight, we're going to talk about limiting beliefs. If you're a human being, you probably have some form of limiting beliefs. I think it's different for everybody. Like I try to go back to the drive to 5. If you're lower on the drive to 5, you're going to have different limiting beliefs than somebody who has a lot of confidence. The reason we're doing my limiting beliefs is because not many people have the level of confidence that Alan has. And if you're anywhere lower on the drive to 5, you might have, currently do, or will suffer from some of the limiting beliefs that I have suffered from. And honestly, a lot of those limiting beliefs are things I do every day now, and that kind of helps me. But if you have limiting beliefs that are holding you back for sure, they held me back for 27 years. And tonight we're talking about it.
So I think the first thing to provide context here is, I heard Tony Robbins say this recently. He said that every belief comes with it a bunch of consequences, both positive and negative. And so every belief that you choose has implications to it. And we've all heard of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So for me, one of the ones early in my life was, so I was in special reading classes when I was in 3rd grade. And my mom tried to convince me that I was special. They picked you. It's all great. But I got taken out of class to learn how to read. And from that moment on, I had this belief that I wasn't a good reader and that I wasn't good at English. And so naturally, I had an aversion to books. And so naturally, I self-fulfillingly made that true by always going towards math. I always thought I'm good at math, so then I was drawn to math. Naturally, I become good at math. And so I think we all have conditioning that we're trying to rewire here. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the episode on identity with Anthony Trucks, he talks about basically actions, beliefs, like all of this, and how to create a new identity. That's what we want to do. So this is not just us in front of a microphone. This is actually going to be a working session where we're going to go through 5 of Kevin's limiting beliefs, and we're going to break this down into 4 main steps. Number 1, we're going to identify what is the actual belief that's holding him back from the greatest level of Kevin. Number 2, we're going to identify what's the cause. There's a lot of causes, but what's the one that matters most, the root, okay? Then we're going to create an empowering replacement based on who he aspires to become and how he can, chase his dreams and achieve his dreams. Because the Kevin that is right now is not the Kevin that's going to be capable to get to that next level. You guys have all heard that quote. The current circumstance is predicated on your current level of thinking, and what got you here will not get you there. So we all have to consistently grow, okay? So we're going to choose an empowering replacement for each of these, and then we're going to create an actual action plan. And we have another whiteboard here where we already kind of went through this. Where we already went through this, and we're going to basically transfer it over in real time.
Give away the secrets. All right, so I would challenge you, if you're watching this, to write down some of your limiting beliefs. Because again, like when you admit these things and you start getting clear on them, you actually become in the power position versus them holding you back. Once you admit them, then they're out in the open and you can start working on them. But if you never admit them to yourself, you're never going to be able to work on them. That's honestly, that's the hardest part for a lot of people. For me, I know it was. Yeah. Like really digging in and saying these are the things that I don't think I'm capable of. So if anything that you say on a day-to-day basis starts with, I can't, I could never, I'm not the type of, I'm too this, I'm not enough this, that's probably a limiting belief, more likely than not. So number 1 for me, limiting belief, not being good enough. Like that comes, I think, from a lot of different places. The way I was raised, I didn't have a father, never felt like we had enough money. So a lot of my limiting beliefs are not enoughness. And that's something that I battle with to this day. Some of these things I'm still working on. Some of these things were really bad in the past. They're a lot better. And that's why I chose these, because I actually can help you with the action plan because I'm actually doing it. So one of the biggest root causes, probably the biggest, is because I'm short. If you've listened to the episode for any amount of time, you know that's one of my biggest insecurities. I didn't think I'd ever be able to get a girlfriend because I'm short. I have an amazing, beautiful girlfriend who's actually a little bit tall. She actually just entered the waiting room. She's actually a little bit taller than me. So that's something. And for me, I've always been super insecure, and I let that hold me back for a long time. I can't be a speaker because I'm short. How many short speakers are there? There's probably a lot. But I wasn't looking at that, right? I wasn't looking at that. And that's the thing about these limiting beliefs. You've believed them for so long, they become normal. They are now the story that you tell yourself, so they're what you believe. You are the author of your story. You get to change it, and that's what we're here to do. So for my empowering replacement, my value is predicated on far more than my height. It just is. And anybody who would ever say like, oh, you're this because you're short, those aren't the type of people I want in my life anymore, honestly. And I think it's getting clear on like, all my friends are tall. Like Alan's 6'2", my other best friend Matt's 6'1". Like everybody around me is tall. It's always been that way. So for me, it's like, what do? Get new friends who are shorter? Or do I understand that this is not something I'm capable of changing, but what I can do is change my association with it?
So what I just wrote here, and I don't know if you guys can see that or not, I don't know if I did this correctly or not, but I remember reading that this symbol is actually a Hindu symbol for peace. Now, honestly, at this point, I don't know if that's true, but I tried to draw the Nazi symbol. What we believe dictates how we feel based on anything. So if you believe this is the Hindu symbol for peace, it's going to have a very different association than if you believe it's Nazi Germany. And so beliefs run us all day, every day. Kevin, if he believes he's short and therefore can't get a girlfriend, he's not going to put himself in positions with taller women if he doesn't believe it's possible to be with someone taller. And so the thing that sucks about this is that beliefs are what's referred to in psychology as a scotoma, a blind spot. We don't even know what's holding us back. And so one example of this could be if Kevin doesn't believe he's intelligent, which we're going to get into, he might not want to be in a room with someone like me if he thinks I'm smart or went to college or whatever it is. I remember one time someone said, like, Alan has a master's degree, like, how do you two have conversations on the podcast? If he believed he wasn't smart enough to be in the room, he would run away from those rooms and not know why, unless he was hyper-conscious enough to go, wait a minute, why don't I believe I'm smart? So we're not using these as an excuse. We're using these as identifying the problem and then overcoming it. But what you'll realize while we do this is that when we identify the limiting belief, you're going to hear a lot of people's excuses. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I can't afford that. Well, how many people here have something in their life right now, a car, a home, that at one point they couldn't afford? If you keep saying I can't afford it, why not ask a better question? How can I afford it? And so all of us have these. The last thing I want to say real quick before we dive back into Kevin's is please be writing down your limiting beliefs, because after Kevin's done with this, we want to actually unpack some of yours in real time if you're willing. And you can keep it in the chat, and then Amy and Tiff will basically interact. And then Amy and Tiff actually came to this with their own as well, just in case you guys don't want to unpack it live. But I definitely recommend. We did this years ago.
Yeah, we did a course on this on the old website a long time ago.
And it's changed so much. So,
okay. So the action plan for me started off with affirmations and self-love. I was always focused on what I was not what I actually am. Realizing that my value does not lie in my height. And also the other thing too is understanding that this is situational. So when it comes to women, I'm afraid of this. But when I'm in the gym, I don't care if you're taller than me. I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all, because that's my safe place. That's where I feel like I'm the best. So Alan and I have talked about that like a lot of times. Like, you know, we joke about like fighting, and I was like, oh, dude, I'm so much taller, you wouldn't be able to reach me. In my mind, that doesn't even cross. In my mind, it's like you'll just fall harder when I hit you. But that's my comfort zone versus like one of my biggest fears. And this has happened to me once. This actually happened to me at a party I was at with you. A woman literally said to me, she called me short. She just said like, well, you're short. And that was like, oh, wow, that actually happened. But that was one time out of however many times.
Right. And now you hold on to that one time, and that's the only evidence you have, even though you don't have any evidence to the contrary. And even if you did, you wouldn't look at it, right? Because if you believe you're ugly, you won't look at any pictures where you're pretty or where you're attractive. So we got to look for one of the other things in the action plan. Every single action plan should be looking for alternate evidence.
Yeah.
So if you're on this end and you have this belief, look for evidence to the contrary.
And I can look back, like, I've had beautiful girlfriends my whole life, right? Taryn's gorgeous. Taryn's my girlfriend now. I've had very beautiful girlfriends in the past. I've had successful relationships. I've had high-paying jobs. I've had really good friends. I've had a lot of things. And if I chose that as the one reason I couldn't get those things, I probably never would have, right? So it could be like that for you. Maybe it's the way your body looks. Maybe it could be any number of things. I would start with self-love and affirmations, and then I would start seeking evidence to the contrary. Like all of these things wouldn't have happened if that was a big deal. Will it be a big deal to some people? Sure. But if it's a bigger deal to you, that's where the major issue is anyway. Anything to add?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay. Number 2 for me was feeling unintelligent. This is something that I struggled with for a long time. And honestly, I think I accepted this as my identity at one point. Like, I've always been the funny kid. I enjoy being the funny kid, but I think I tried to just be that. And I didn't think I was capable of much more. For me, I didn't go to college. That's the root cause. I didn't go to college. All of my friends went to college. A lot of my friends went to good colleges. A lot of my friends were set up to work in corporate environments when I was pumping gas. Like, for a long time, I was the townie gas station guy. Nothing wrong with that. But that was me for a long time, and I had no idea what I was going to do, right? That was a big thing for me. That was a huge insecurity that everybody senior year knew what school they were going to go to. I got accepted to two schools. I was getting recruited for baseball for one, but I didn't want to go. So that right there is evidence that I could have gone if I wanted to. I was getting recruited by the baseball team. I could have gone if I wanted to. It wasn't my desire. And then somehow I decided to make that a bad thing eventually, right? But now that's shifted. So for me, my empowering belief, my empowering action, my empowering replacement, I'll just outwork you. That is one of my specialties. Like, you probably might be a little bit smarter than me in a lot of ways, but I have never quit tattooed on my arm. Like, that is my identity. You might be smarter, but you will not outlast it. Now, you might, but that's my mentality. And that's what's gotten me through a lot of things. Like, intelligence will get you a long way. Work ethic, I think, will get you just as far, if not further. And then when you start raising your level of intelligence, that's when things really, really get going. For me, consistently learning. When I decided, I don't remember what conversation we were in.
Oh, Brant.
It was before that, I think.
Dave Meltzer?
I don't know. I remember Alan and I got off either a coaching call or a podcast, and I remember feeling like so down. And I was like, Alan, I need to get smarter. Like, I'm not smart enough to hang in these conversations. And that was the awareness step. That was the admittance step. That was very hard to say, like, I, in this moment, am not smart enough to accomplish my dreams, plain and simple. But what did I do? I committed to learning every single day. And now every day I listen to an audiobook for at least 40 minutes every single day, 7 days a week. But for me, that's a necessity. I want to be the best in the world at this. I have to learn. I have to learn. But that also proves that it's possible. Like, I wasn't learning anything before. Of course I didn't feel smart. I didn't pick up a book until I was 26 years old. Like, I didn't pick up a personal development book until 4 years ago. Of course I didn't feel smart. But what do you feel smart in? Because there's things I felt way smarter than other people in. Again, mixed martial arts, I know a ton about that. Hockey, I know a lot about that. You know, audio, visual stuff, I know a lot about that.
I remember Kevin telling me I feel like Superman in the gym and Clark Kent outside the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember saying, well, of course, you spent thousands of hours in the gym. Anthony Truck said this. He's like, you're not going to go sculpt a statue and spend 10,000 hours sculpting and then go, you know, I'm not really a sculptor. See, sometimes the reason we have imposter syndrome is because we're not doing it. Like, if you're not going to the gym, it's going to be very hard for you to teach fitness. It's going to be very hard for you to feel fit and to feel empowered. I sent this to Emilia earlier. I just think it's very relevant to you not feeling intelligent, which, by the way, I've consistently told Kev, like, you're unbelievably intelligent. It's like, it's crazy to me that you ever believed you weren't. And since that realization, I feel like you hang in rooms you might not have hung in the past.
For sure.
So everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life believing that it's stupid. I sent that to Emilia today. That's one of my favorites, Albert Einstein. And I think so many of us are convinced, like me, I'm not good at writing and reading. And it's like, I'm going to write books? No question. I think I'm a good writer now. But like, what if I just kept believing that the rest of my life? So again, beliefs are the root cause of everything. And what I also want to point out too, I'll outwork you. Every belief comes with it a strength and a weakness. So you have to go, it goes even deeper. So I'll outwork you has actually become me and his bottleneck. Because I have a chip on my shoulder, some of the stuff that I went through as a child as well. And I'll outwork you is definitely my belief too. But working smart is actually even more important. So just grinding on the wrong thing is not, so you have to be super hyper-conscious. Not only the limiting belief, but even the empowering belief comes with a replacement. So you felt short, so you got really, really strong and jacked and into fighting, because if you felt like, you know, a little guy, you want to make sure you can defend yourself. It's like, look at that became such a huge strength. I remember you told me that you were afraid to get fired. because you didn't feel like you were good enough to be there, so you were always on time. And now Kevin's on time always, and that's literally a strength that I don't have because I was never afraid to get fired. And so what we have to understand here is that every belief has so many implications, and I'm just going to keep reiterating that.
And I think the other thing too is like if you have a limiting belief, and we talked about this on the inner junk, I think, probably episode. It doesn't matter what other people are saying to you. Like it's literally a running joke. It was a running joke in my school that I've had abs since I was in middle school. Like I've always been the jacked guy. That I've got so many compliments on that, but I never focus on that. I focus on the fact that I'm short. But you know, what did I do? I went to the gym and built my body because that's all I could really build. I can't get any taller. I just took my shoes off, so I'm getting ready to get serious. So number 3, not being able to sell. I think this is a huge one for so many people for so many different reasons. So for me, my first ever position as anything salesy, I was a personal trainer at a very, very upscale place.
The Charles.
Not the Charles.
Or notify people, because what's happening, we're getting.
Amy or Tiff, can you please mute that? Thank you so much.
So for me, I was at an upscale one-on-one studio, and the people there basically said, like, it's your job to make these people feel bad about themselves, so they buy the highest package possible. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, just so you know, I know you love your granddaughter, but if you keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to see her in 5 years. Like, maybe that's true. That might even be true. But like, I don't want to highlight that pain. That doesn't feel good to me. So the root cause for me is I felt like sales was dirty. I felt like sales was sleazy. I had been manipulated in the past by sales, and I assumed that if I tried to get better at sales, I'd be, that used car salesman type. Nothing against used car salesmen or women if they're in here. But for me, I had a bad association. And I assumed if I do that, I'm the same way. So my empowering replacement, my services are very, very valuable. I'm doing my clients like so much. I'm helping them so much by what I do. If I don't help them, if I don't get them as a client, I'm genuinely doing them a disservice. And that is a newer thing. That is a newer thing. So I've been doing free consulting calls, 30-minute like podcast discovery calls. And I'm learning very quickly that a lot of people who start podcasts are not going to last very long because they don't know what they're doing. Now, what this is doing, this is part of the action plan for me. Get more information. Get more proof that you're not right. And that's what I'm doing by getting on these calls with people. I'm learning very quickly that like, if you're really good at something, you sucked at it at first. And now if you're good at it, you have probably forgotten so much about what it took to get good. There's things that people might ask you about, like Cody's into fitness. Somebody might ask Cody, like, how many calories do you eat in a day? When for you, that's what you know every day. 2,300, 2,500, 2,800, right? It's got to shake. But if people start asking you that question, then you realize, oh, wait, I am super valuable. And then focus on specific learning. If you're not comfortable selling, focus on sales. If you're not comfortable with your body, focus on weight loss. If you're not comfortable in your relationship, focus on relationships. I call it specific learning. I always tell my clients to do that. Whatever you're struggling with right now in your life, I would suggest you put 80% of your learning into, because it's going to switch. It switches very quickly.
I'm going to go deeper on this one real quick.
Yeah.
All right. So not being able to sell, I'm very fortunate at this point to have 10 full-time clients. All of them, for the most part, are aspiring entrepreneurs. And what we realize is that a lot of times, Lauren Tickner said this, we get into business because we love what we do, not because we want to be a sales or a marketer. And I'm realizing very, very quickly that not only doing my own deep inner work, but I've been doing some really deep inner work with my clients. Tears are flying. It's been really powerful. But what I've realized is that most of the root cause of not being able to sell, first of all, this is the most common limiting belief I've ever seen. Like that sales is bad. I don't care if you're trying to convince your sister to go to the movies with you, or if you're trying to convince Kevin to come get a workout. It's called alignment. Okay? Sales is not about trying to persuade someone else to do something outside of their best interest. It's about how do you align what their goals are with what your goals are and make sure that you're communicating effectively with the way that person receives value. And so what I would say is this. I know that we've forgotten, but if you don't mind putting your Instagram in the chat if you want to connect offline, but I also want to offer everyone. I've been doing this with my clients and it's been profound to see. One of my clients literally just got 2 clients that were much higher ticket, like triple the amount of price before, because we did this inner work. I have sales aversion questions. It's, I think, 13 questions that's going to get you into your own mind to go, wow, like, why? That's why. At some point in your childhood or in your past, you were manipulated, you felt outside of control, you were with someone who did not have your best interest at heart, and now you don't want to do that to other people. But what if what you're doing and what you're selling is actually what's best for them? And I have questions that will unpack this for you. Thank you, B, for saying that. Bianca said I have firsthand experience at this. It worked incredibly. Okay, yeah, so if you want those questions, I'll give them to you for free. Literally just give me your Instagram handle and I'll send them to you today. Tonight, rather, because we got to record after this. But it's super powerful because if you don't know how to persuade and influence and sell, you're not going to be able. The last thing I'll say is this simple quote from How to Win Friends and Influence People. He who has this skill has the whole world with him. He who does not walks a lonely way. So again, if you cannot influence others to take new positive action, you cannot help those you love, you cannot parent your children, you cannot do anything positive for other people. Influence is the name of the game. And if you want help with that, please reach out.
Right on. All right, number 4, I could never be a speaker. This was a thing for me for a long time. It still is one of the things I'm most afraid of. Like, I was afraid of this before we did it, just because I don't do whiteboard trainings. I've never been to college. I've never done a whiteboard training, really, other than the ones we've done. I've never done one live. So this is very similar to a speech for me. I think the biggest root cause is I don't like being the center of attention unless it's something I'm the best at. So like, I love when people watch me work out. That's just a thing. I've done it so much. I love when people see me hit the bag or spar. I love that. But if in something that I don't feel like I'm the best at, or I don't feel super versed with, I'm terrified of being the center of attention. And when you're on stage, everybody is watching you. Everybody hears what you say. Everybody sees if you screw up. And everybody, whether they know it or you know it, they're judging you. And that's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. And again, my path is a little bit different because I decided I wanted to be the best podcaster in the world. What goes with podcasting? Speaking. So I better figure that part out. And honestly, guys, for a lot of these things, my action plan, and we'll get into that, but my action plan is putting my head down and doing it anyway. Because I decided I want to be the best at these things. It's too bad that I don't like it. Pick something else then. Like that, unfortunately, that's the way it is for me. Or fortunately, because it keeps me in check.
So that's been his superpower. And I just want to identify something real quick. I could never be a speaker because I don't want to be the center of attention. Imagine if you don't want to be the center of attention, if you never deal with that, how are you supposed to get good at football? How are you supposed to get good at basketball? How are you supposed to ever be a speaker? You don't become a good speaker until you give speeches. You're not going to pick up a basketball and be Michael Jordan. So if you are always avoiding the very thing that would make you the thing, you're literally just avoiding pain. I think Kevin's superpower is his ability to understand that it's going to be painful and to do it anyway. And so you don't have to believe these empowering beliefs at first. You have to know them and then prove it with your action plan by going through the pain. It's not supposed to be easy. Whoever thinks that is not going to, name anyone who achieved their dream. They're never going to tell you it's easy. No one will. And if they do, they're absolutely lying, in my opinion.
Jeff.
But that's the thing. The very thing that would get him to be a good speaker is if you don't get over being the center of attention, again, I just want to point out, you have to give speeches alone forever. And again, whatever it is for you, on the other side of your dreams is fear. These are all just fears. These are to avoid the pain of feedback. Okay, go ahead.
So speaking of fear, my empowering replacement is at one time in my life, I was pretty much afraid of everything that I now love. Again, so we're going to cross 400 episodes this month, I believe. I was terrified of podcasting at the beginning. Like when we interviewed Lori Harder, I wanted her to jump out of the window. I was so afraid. Now we were on the first floor, so I probably would have been hurt. but I would have bolted for sure. You know, we interviewed Dean Graziosi last week. I was definitely nervous before that. Like, I still get nervous. It took me 150 episodes to really feel comfortable. And now when we have like very big guests, I still get the boom boom test, like Evan Carmichael says. Like, if you are about to do something, your heart is beating and you can feel it, that means it's something you should probably do. If it's a good boom boom, not a terrified I might die boom boom. But then again, some of those terrified I might die boom booms aren't real. Like, I screwed up the intro. If you guys have listened to Dean Graziosi, the episode, you'll hear me like bumble through the intro. Like, I jeffed it hardcore. But I'm still here and I'm still showing up and we still did episodes and it's not the end of the world.
One of the best episodes we've ever done.
I would say it is the best episode. Let's see. Action plan. For me, I put whiteboarding today. So again, like, one of my superpowers, I'm convinced, is I just do it anyway. My biggest fear is planes. One of my other biggest fears is speaking. Our second event that I ever spoke at, we co-hosted an event in Florida. Like, I have no business co-hosting an event. I've spoken once before. Whatever, we still did it, right? And then we just co-hosted another event, and like we hosted the event. We hosted the event, basically. And that was all the logistics and getting the speakers to fly in and booking the venue and all of that stuff. And that was my fourth or fifth speech. So for me, I attach the outcome. I don't get it unless I do it. And people ask me, like, how do you stay disciplined? I don't have a choice. I've created this life. Like, I don't have a choice. Either I go or I don't get what I want. I don't get both. Now, I know that's not the right way for everybody to do it. And I understand that. Any feedback you have on what a good action plan for speaking, because you're a speaker as well. But for me, I just do it anyway because I know if I don't, I'll regret it. I'll regret not doing it more than I'll regret the pain of doing it and maybe screwing up a little bit.
I would say another part of the action plan would be study speakers. JFK, Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs. Like, I've been studying speakers for a very long time. Whatever you want to be incredible at. And here's the interesting thing. I'll just do this real quick. Tom Brady, Eminem, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey. All five of those people, you all know their name. Why? They all got really good at like one thing. Okay? Michael Jordan. I think this is one of the most commonly misunderstood concepts in the world. Yes, they're good at other things too, but they have one universal thing that they got great at. Okay? For Kevin, it's podcasting. He's really, really good at podcasting and trying to be good at the other things around that, but most of it's podcasting. Okay? Speaking is kind of a byproduct of that. Coaching is a byproduct of that. So for you, I don't know what yours is, but I'll tell you what, there's a limiting belief underneath it that you're going to have to get rid of if you want to be world class. And just think about yourself as an Olympic athlete. I've said this before. I'll keep saying this. Like, if you're an Olympic athlete, all your friends and family understand that you can't be at that birthday party. They understand that you're going to have late nights and early mornings. But when you're not seen as an Olympic athlete, but you still want Olympic athlete level results, it's very difficult. People hate on you a lot. And for me, I get very misunderstood, honestly, because I don't think they understand that I'm not playing this for fun. I'm playing for world class. Maybe that's not what you want. That's fine. But I know it's going to require sacrifice. And it's going to require me to dig into some of my deepest limiting beliefs. And that's what we're doing now. So again, figure out what your one thing is. And if you're not taking action in that direction, there's a fear underneath it. Sales might be it. Podcasting might be it. Speaking might be it. Study people who have done it before. Biographies will change the game for you. If you read biographies, you'll realize that these people went through more than you could possibly imagine. Martin Luther King, for example, one of the most famous speakers of all time. His life was a million times harder than mine, no matter how hard mine was. When you start to study these people, you realize there's no reason I can't do it too. The only reason you believe you can't is because someone else told you to when you were probably too young to know otherwise, and then that just stuck. Okay.
All right. He said his piece. Number 5, I could never be a successful podcaster. When I was on the edge of the hotel bed, suicidal in New Jersey, that was one of the thoughts running through my head. How are you going to be a successful podcaster? You don't know really anything about podcasting. You've done 10 episodes at that point, or 15 episodes. You have no speaking experience. Like, you've never interviewed anybody in your life. How are you going to be the best podcaster in the world? I think for me, it's always been, why would anybody want to listen to me? Like, what do I have? I don't have any degrees. I don't necessarily have interesting life experience. I think I do now. But for me, it's always been that. Like, why would you want to listen to me? What do I have that you don't? What makes me special enough to for you to like sit down and listen to me talk for an hour. Like that's an investment. And you guys all listen, and I appreciate you guys so much. But it's like, it's still strange to me sometimes when somebody reaches out and they're like, oh, I love your podcast. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot that's like a thing.
Kevin wouldn't say this probably, but someone has him on their phone background.
Oh, yeah.
And I was there when he found that out, and he's like, I'm on someone's phone background as their dream. He's like, I never imagined that in my entire life. So anything's possible.
It was very interesting. Yeah.
And it was me, by the way. Yeah.
What's this one? Oh, so for me, I've literally, and that's kind of part of it. I've gotten messages from people that say I saved their life. I've gotten messages from people that said, like, this podcast helped my relationship. You know, I'm chasing my dreams because of you. People have gone back to school because I've been in their corner. Like, the proof is in the pudding. And, you know, we're just getting started too. That's the other thing. Like, yeah, we're 400 episodes in, but it's only been like 2.5 years, you know, and we've been able to impact so many people, and we get so many amazing messages. 3.5, whatever. It goes by quick when you have fun. So for me, it's just been, that's the proof. Like, the proof is the fact that people literally say, like, you saved my life. The proof is, I remember when I felt just like you, or I know exactly what you're dealing with, or thank you so much for sharing that vulnerable thing because I'm going through that same thing. For me, it's hard to explain. Like, I am this now. I am this. Like, I don't even think about it. When I share like vulnerable things, I don't think about it anymore because I know it's what's necessary, and that's what I signed up for. This is my passion. This is my purpose. That's why I try to show up as much as I can. So for me, getting around a support system is the action plan for you guys. Alan said it. If you have a limiting belief, it's probably because somebody told you couldn't do it. And when I was at my old job, people told me I couldn't do it. Like, how are you going to make money podcasting? And the truth is, I didn't know. So I believed them. Like, yeah, they're probably right. Like, am I really going to be Joe Rogan? Like, he just signed a $100 million Spotify deal. Am I going to be able to do that? You know, but that's not what it's about. My journey's different. I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm Kevin Palmieri. This is Alan Lazarus. This isn't the Joe Rogan experience. It's the Hyperconscious Podcast. So getting around people who believed in me really, really helped. Getting around people who understood, like, what you want to do is possible. I don't have anybody in my life that's negative. Genuinely. I can say that confidently. And that's by design, because I can't have that. I don't want people around me holding me back. I'm good enough at that myself. I don't need somebody to help me with that. But what I do want is people around me who believe in me, and they believe, you know, they know what I'm capable of, and they push me. And that's, you know, Alan and I feed off each other very well. Again, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do the whiteboard. I was like, dude, I don't want to do the whiteboard. Like, I've never done that. And Alan pushed me to do it. I'm happy we did it, as I always say. And he even said that, like, you'll be happy after we do it. So I think I'll give him some credit.
No, I appreciate that, man. So quick test here real quick. So I don't know the exact number, but Kevin's done approximately probably like 440 or so podcasts, okay, that are actually released and publicly released. So he's a podcaster, right? But he's not just saying I'm a podcaster. I could literally be his association and say, Kevin, you're not a podcaster. I could say that to him every day. I could wake up and say, hey, Kevin, you're not a podcaster. It wouldn't matter. Why? Because he's taken so much action that he believes it in his central nervous system. He believes it to his core. You can say, you're not a bodybuilder. I've got thousands of hours of proof to my own evidence that I am. And people were saying that originally. No one questions that now. But I just want you guys to understand, like, listen, whatever your dream is, the naysayers are coming for you. And if they're not saying it to your face, they're saying it behind your back. But your actions speak louder to yourself than any of their words. I want you to block your ears and look at your own evidence. Look at your own action. Now, if you're not taking action because of a limiting belief, that's where we need to start. Don't believe anyone else. Dean Graziosi, I asked him a simple question. I said, what's one question that you've asked yourself that's made the biggest difference? He said, I asked myself, why should I listen to you? And he had people telling him, you can't sell books. You don't have a doctorate. You can't do well in real estate. He said, why would I listen to you when you only know how to do it wrong? You failed in that arena. Don't listen to people who are different than you. Don't let the noise of other people's opinions drown out your own inner voice. And be so committed in the silence between the notes that you don't even hear them. I could tell Kevin he's not a podcaster till I was blue in the face, and it wouldn't affect his belief at all. Why? Because he's taken so much action. Action is the cure-all. Lauren Tickner, Tony Robbins, I'm going to combine it. Lauren Tickner said, take messy action. Tony Robbins says, take massive action. I say, take massive, messy action all the time, 24/7. you guys have been on these masterminds. These are not perfect. These are, we are, the audio is probably terrible right now.
It is. I can feel it in my bones.
But we're still here, right? No one's going to tell us what we can and can't do, period.
And then, like, this will be my motivational bit for this thing. This is 3.5 or 4 years, like this stuff. Now, I still have stuff that I'm working with right now. I still have limiting beliefs. I always will to some degree. I think we all will. I think they improve quality-wise. But again, like 3.5 years ago, I was suicidal. I didn't have any of the things I have now. If you are committed, if you can say today, like, I'm committed to getting over these limiting beliefs, they will change. Is it going to be overnight? No. No, because it's taken you X amount of years to build that into your psyche. But if you are committed to it, and I'm learning very quickly that it's the discipline and the consistency and the commitment that people lack the most. If you commit to something and you can do it consistently with discipline, I guarantee it'll change. Now, can I say how much? No. But if I can do it, anybody can do it. I truly believe that. I have nothing special. I'm just a regular dude with a big dream.
And with consistent, massive, messy action. Team, everybody, is there anyone out there who wants us to unpack a limiting belief and then go through these stages? These stages are powerful. You identify a limiting belief, you find the cause of it, or at least the biggest cause, you choose an empowering replacement, and then you create a tangible action plan to actually execute against it. It can be fitness, it can be health, it can be love, it can be business, it can be sales. Whatever it is, if you're willing, please let us know.
I'll crank this fan up.
We'll be right back after he
My bad.
drops the headphones. Amy or Tiff, too, if you guys would be willing, if no one else has a limiting belief that they want to put in the chat. I know that this is a vulnerable place, but you're safe here.
I mean, I will if nobody else wants one. Actually, Cynthia said that she has one, so I'll let her go, and then I can go if nobody else wants to.
All right, Cynthia. I will take a picture of this and make sure that
Kathy has one as well.
because I want to go through this and whiteboard real quick. Here's what we'll end up doing. We'll just take number 1 here.
We should have just done it on the other side. Which one we want to?
Can we?
I mean, can you draw it quickly? Yeah. Either way.
What do we got in the chat? Cynthia, thank you for stepping up. We appreciate you.
We have 2 others as well. I'm not going to say the names because I said I wasn't going to say the names. So
I apologize.
People are just saying that they have them, but I don't know if they want to like unmute themselves and say what it is.
We can do that. If you want to unmute and tell us, we can do that. If you want to write it in the chat, we can do that. I'll make sure I don't say your full name.
It's entirely your call. Yeah, no full names.
So okay, I understand. Because is this live? Is this going public?
It
Yes.
will be, but we will keep your name anonymous.
Okay, but my voice will be on.
Just type it in the chat if you don't want your voice.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. And then Amy or Tiffany will read it for you.
I'm sure you got to use those. We can't.
Amy or Tiff, what do we got?
Nothing yet. We're just waiting.
Okay.
I see some messages.
Well, there's another one.
Yeah.
Besides, Cynthia hasn't put hers in there yet, but there's one from. Oh,
there-
she just.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it.
All right.
Whichever one.
It's so here it says I struggle with finding my first girlfriend and I feel like it's not possible for me.
Okay. The root cause of that, potential root causes could be
Self-worth. What's up? Self-worth.
self-worth could be one of them. You could feel like you're not attractive enough. I guess the question would be, to ask yourself would be, why do I feel like it's going to be hard for me to find a girlfriend? And again, we'll keep it anonymous.
And just going back to what I was talking about, for me, it was being short. I didn't think a woman would want a shorter guy. That was like a thing for me. Other than that, like, I've always been very, even since we've been working together, like I've always been confident in knowing how to treat a woman and, you know, being that kind of person. But for me, it was purely looks. So I got these badass tats.
So my question would be, why do you believe that it will be difficult for you to find a girlfriend? And I'll ask you this, what pulls the most when I ask that question? Because you got to use your intuition in this and really sit with it. And if you're not willing to do it, let us know. If you want to cut it off, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the vulnerability.
Yes, we appreciate you. But this is the first step. So feeling uncomfortable approaching somebody that may not be gay.
Okay, next question. What is one empowering replacement that you could choose to believe?
Little chat questionnaire.
What would you have to believe to achieve the result you want? That's what Anthony Trucks took us through recently. Like, what are the beliefs that I have to have?
She said that it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We can choose a more empowering replacement than that.
I would say even if the empowering replacement could very easily be part of the action plan. Like, aren't there apps that are set up for that kind of dating where it's people that are either gay or lesbian that are looking for that? Like, that would be one thing I would do, is get specific on where are the safest places for you to do that. For me, this is another thing, and I'm not proud of it. I literally, if I'm talking to a girl back in the day, I would ask her how tall she was because I didn't want to meet her in person and that be a deal breaker. So for me, it was like I was setting myself up to be as certain as I could. You could very easily, well, I don't know how easily, but you could do that with an app if that's usable.
So I wouldn't mind doing a pivot real quick. I think we chose the wrong root cause, if I'm honest. I think this is more of a surface level result than an actual root cause. So if you don't mind, Amy, can you give me the one that you came with? Because I know this is something that you've probably already overcome, just so that everyone understands the process real quick.
Yeah, so are you gonna like erase it or you can erase a different one? Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Amber.
Okay. So mine was that I didn't think that I could go back to school and be successful.
Couldn't go back to school. Perfect. Okay. What was the root cause of that?
Because growing up, I was always told, like, you're not smart. I was compared to my brother and sister. And I was just like always academically put down.
Comparison to siblings. Okay, so this is a good root cause. This is definitely, and you and I have talked in depth about that. And I also wanted to say, future pace here. Amy recently, 3.8, Dean's List multiple times, unbelievable recommendation letters from your professors. And it's crazy because at one point, Amy was just someone I didn't know who messaged me on Snapchat, who was struggling with the idea of going back to school. And between Kevin and myself, Amy's come such a long way in unpacking her limiting beliefs. And it's just been truly tremendous. Okay, so what was your empowering replacement that eventually got you to go to school?
Honestly, I think it was both of you guys just saying, like, well, why do you think this? Like, why are you believing these things that you were told?
I remember asking you that. I remember saying, like,
I know. I think you and I had a long conversation about it.
We did. I said, give me 5 reasons why that's wrong. And there were like 5 reasons. I was like, Amy, you're just focusing on the wrong stuff.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I remember that. Go ahead.
I remember you did 2 columns. You did like why you can't go to school and then why you can. And Kevin said, literally, look at the right column and not the left.
Yeah.
Because the other stuff's not real.
Right. It was just all in my head because it's what I had been told so many times.
Right. I'm convinced that anybody can do anything if they're, I mean, the first step is you understanding why you're not already doing it. And it's usually fear of failure, fear of judgment, sometimes fear of success.
So what would you say? Oh yeah, that was mine. Why, what was the empowering belief that you chose if you had to pick one? The empowering replacement in hindsight.
Oh God. I guess it was just kind of changing my thinking and saying, like, I can do this, I guess.
Okay, what's one reason why you can? What was one of the reasons that you wrote down? And again, it doesn't have to
because it was something that was really interesting to me, and And like, I thought that like, if this is something super interesting, then I'm going to put a lot of time and effort into it and end up doing well anyway.
Okay,
I
so if you
remember-
love something, good.
And I remember another thing, Amy.
Mhm.
It was something like you were studying for your final, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm going to fail." And I said, "Honestly, you're not, because this is the way you're conditioned. You always think you're going to, and you get like a 99."
I've told you guys that so many times. I'm going to fail this test.
And then I said, "Okay, it's not going to happen. But hypothetically, say it did, what would happen?" And you said, "Well, I'd have to wait to take it again." Okay, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo. Right?
Yeah,
So,
wait 6 months or whatever it is, 4
Right.
months, whatever.
right. So I think that's part of it too, is like best case, worst case, most likely scenario. What's the best? We go into these things thinking, what's the worst that could happen? When we should go in saying, what's the best that could happen? That would switch everything around.
Kathy had a great question. She said, what's the difference between an empowering replacement and action plan? The empowering replacement is the belief you've chosen in advance to believe. So one of my beliefs is that I will be the greatest master of communication, human connection, and positive influence to ever live. I chose that belief in advance. Now I make sure that my action plan is congruent with that. So if I keep telling myself, I write this every day, I am the greatest master of communication, human connection, and positive influence to ever live, but then I never podcast, I never speak, I never help other people, I never coach, then my action plan isn't happening, and my belief is just an affirmation, right? Affirmations without action leads to delusion. And by the way, some people think they're great by default, which is also a limiting belief. I've been there. Okay,
It's the other side.
It's the other side of limiting beliefs that we didn't really talk about.
The other side.
Okay, so I can do this because I love the subject, and if you love the subject, you're more likely to work hard, and if you're more likely to work hard, you will succeed, okay? The only reason you don't have what you want in your life is the story you've been telling yourself why you can't have it. Kevin witnessed me telling myself a story that I couldn't find a female more ambitious than me. That was such crap. And now I have Emilia, who is significantly more ambitious than me, and it's unbelievable. Okay, and so Tiff and Amy witnessed me on a team call coming up with uncovering that limiting belief, identifying it, and you might have heard me say this before, I literally was afraid that I was looking to buy a car that was a Ferrari with black leather interior and it also flies. I was afraid it was a unicorn. I was afraid it didn't exist. It was absolute crap. It was based on my conditioning. It was based on what I had seen growing up. And now that I finally had that empowering belief of that person is out there, all of a sudden I had that pull. And now, what do you know? I'm with someone who is significantly more ambitious.
And you'd never be able to if you thought the other way.
Right.
If you didn't think it was possible to fly, you would never do the research. You would never do the test flights. You would never build a prototype. You would never do any of the things to realize you're going to fail probably at first, right? Like the first plane you build isn't going to fly, but you're going to see it can stay up. And then you're going to say like, okay, what if I change these things? You need feedback. So what happens is if you don't believe, you don't take action. When you don't take action, you then believe the fact that you can't do it. And the truth is you can't do it if you don't take action. And it's that you get stuck in that cycle. That's where I was for a long time.
I remember literally telling Kevin in my next relationship, I want to be the anchor, not the engine.
10 minutes.
All right. So action plan for Amy was get around more empowering people, go to the mall with Kevin and ride animals.
Yes.
Yes.
Go to the mall.
Hell yes.
Go to the mall. Can you tell that story, Rusman?
Yes. So Amy and I think we connected through Alan on Snapchat. And she's like, hey, I'm afraid to approach people in public. And I was like, yeah, me too. But I'm going to pretend I'm not in this moment. I said, meet me at the mall, 4:30 on Thursday. We lived like an hour apart. So, and this is another hack too. Sign yourself up for something that you're uncomfortable doing, but be the leader. So that day I wanted to cancel on Amy because I was just as uncomfortable as her. But again, I'm the podcast guy. I'm a hyper-conscious guy. I have to do this. Like, this is now my identity. So we get to the mall. We hug it out. Hey, what's up? Pleasure to meet you all. That happy jazz. I think we got Starbucks because coffee is my jam. I need coffee. And then we started by going into stores and asking about products. Like, hey, can you tell me a little bit about this chair? Like, tell me about this chair. What's it do? How much does it cost? Right? And then we approached other people. We talked to people like in the mall. And we were walking by these motorized zoo animals. And I was like, Amy, let's do that. Like, and again, guys, I was terrified, just so you know. Like, I didn't want to do this any more than she did. But we ended up renting these things and driving them around the mall. And that was one of the biggest things, I think, at that time in your life, Amy. And I think, I'll let you say if it changed it or not. But you definitely leave the encounter with more belief of like, I did what I said I couldn't do. So now my reality is already altered. I've just proven to myself that the story I've been telling myself is a lie. And now I get to decide what to do from there. So in my speeches, I have a video where I show people that.
It was such a great time. And yes, it significantly changed my life.
Well, I appreciate
Otherwise, I
that.
don't think I would have just shared that with everybody.
Right. I'm very proud of you for that. And I appreciate you doing that. Like, that's another thing. Amy has been really good in terms of fear chasing. Like, she came to our event in Florida. She was at our event in Lowell. She's always on these calls with us. Like, her and Tiff are doing so much for us, but that's also helping them because we're challenging them. Like, what are you afraid of? All right, cool, do that. Like, Tiff knows. Tiff, get on the phone. Make this phone call. You should do this. She says, yeah, I know. And then she does it. It's a game changer.
Amy, just off the cuff, how many times working with Kevin and I over the last 3.5 years, 2.5 really, have you gotten outside of your comfort zone and felt uncomfortable?
Like every single time I ever talk to any of you. So
was it worth it?
Oh, 100%. I think it's like just helped me grow so much. Like I obviously would not be where I am today if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for Tiff, if it wasn't for the team of people, our friends, any of that. So yes, thank you guys. I love you guys so much.
We love you. We love you. I want to just hammer through the other comments. So somebody said my limiting belief is that I won't be taken seriously as a woman in a profession dominated by men. That is an interesting one, right? And it's very interesting.
Identify that I won't be taken seriously as a woman. Wow.
What is the root cause?
What's the root cause of that? I would say thousands of years of suppression.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So, Taryn, that was yours.
Yeah.
And so the limiting belief is that you won't be taken seriously as a woman in a profession dominated by men. When I ask you this question, what does your intuition say? What is the root cause of that belief?
I don't know if it's because I don't have any examples of women doing this, so I can't see it in my mind, or if I think that men do things so differently in this profession than the way women would, and that I think that they would be shocked by a woman's perspective.
Ooh. Okay, what is one empowering replacement to your belief? Give me 3.
Maybe because a female perspective is so different, it would be something new and therefore something interesting to listen to or something interesting to hear.
Absolutely, yeah. 2 more?
Just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean I can't be it. I don't know.
That's fire. That's fire.
Okay.
Absolutely. 1 more?
Because I haven't seen it, that means I have to do it so that I can inspire other people.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, what's your action plan?
I think it's going to have to just be what Kevin said, just putting my head down and doing it because I don't have another choice.
So what if, and I love the question, what if you succeeded because you were a woman instead of the alternative?
Cool.
And that's just something, again, it's the story. How do we rewire these stories? I mean, I told Kevin on a recent episode that I'm going to tell 2 stories one day of my childhood. And one of them is going to be the empowering version, and one of them is going to be the very, very dark version. And I'm going to say both of those stories are true, but I chose this one.
I would honestly, as you were saying that, I would literally love to work with somebody like you. So I would say like the empowering replacement could be it's about damn time, right? That a woman runs this, because I think more now than ever that it's necessary. And again, you have to believe that, not me, but it is about damn time probably. And like, listen to and again, I know this doesn't work, but like, you know, you're an amazing individual. I've had enough times talking to you where I'm consistently and constantly blown away by you, your acumen, your consistency, your personal development, and your personality. Like,
oh, thank you. That's very nice.
Absolutely. But anybody would be like blessed to be able to follow, you know, your lead. And that, you know, starts with you. But
I would love to give you one more empowering alternative as well. Sorry.
No, you're good. We got 3 minutes.
How many? 3 minutes.
Trace.
Okay. So I've coached, a lot of people at this point. And from what I've experienced, and again, this is just my generalization based on my personal experience, women are far easier to coach and better to coach because they don't have as big of egos, typically. Again, typically. I don't want to offend anybody, but that's what I've seen. They tend to be more humble, more collaborative, and I think they're better leaders in a lot of ways, genuinely, especially in the 21st century. So that's another empowering belief that you could adopt, and that's genuinely what I actually believe as well. I told Emilia and Bianca, who started a show called the Why Power Podcast, that they're going to be better off than Kevin and myself as long as they can stay consistent. I did put that caveat in there because they have less ego than we did originally. I like to think we've worked on that.
We did. This is another thing, not just for this specific example, but every example. Decide. The reason you're like on the fence is because you know it's just as possible as the opposite, the excuses you're giving yourself. You have to decide either, you know what, I'm going to pack this in the suitcase and I'm not doing it. And you kind of, you won't decide that. That's why you asked the question. You know it's possible. I say decide first. And that's something consistent that Alan and I have said throughout this. I decided that I wasn't going to let this hold me back. Is it that simple? No. But the decision is the predecessor to all of this. You have to decide that, you know what, maybe the odds are stacked against me. What are the chances 2 kids from Uxbridge, Massachusetts change the world? Like, what are the odds are astronomically low, like 0. But we wear that as a badge of honor now. Now, did we at the beginning? Probably not. But you have to decide first. Decide that, you know what, whether or not it happens, I'm going to try because it's 100% more likely to happen.
Fire. This has been unbelievable.
We love you guys
for participating. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much. Again, if you want the questionnaire about getting rid of your sales aversions, or at least uncovering them, which by the way is a good predecessor to this, put your Instagram handle in, connect with each other. We love you guys. Please reach out anytime.
And yeah, DM us. If we didn't get your question, DM us. We get back to everybody. We appreciate you guys. We do not have fans. We have family. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us, and we are the most blessed.
Thank you guys so much.
Much love, guys.
Talk to you soon.